UFC Fight Night Vegas 55, Holm versus Vieira just took place, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my reaction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, and my overall event recap as well. Let's start straight away with the early prelim opener of Elise Reed versus Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes gets the TKO win in the third round from full mount. The first round was quite close. I picked Elise Reed to win this one because I thought she was a way better women's MMA fighter. However, she doesn't know the first thing about takedown defense, unfortunately. I kind of saw that in the Eubanks fight, but I didn't think Sam Hughes was as good of a grappler or as big, but she's a bigger girl. She was a lot stronger, and she was able to ragdoll Elise Reed in the second round, keep a dominant position, and then do the same in the third round as well to get a third round TKO. Really boring fight. Of course, it's women's MMA, so it's going to be really, really boring and nothing going on whatsoever. Basically just laying on Elise Reed for the majority of the fight, landing some total strikes here and there. Nothing good whatsoever about that. Completely lowering the stock of the company once again, but the third round finish was quite cool, so that kind of made up for it. So good for Sam Hughes. She gets the job done, and Elise Reed loses another fight. So let's move on to another fight up the card. Chase Hooper versus Felipe Colares. I picked Felipe Colares to win this one, and boy was I wrong. Chase Hooper looked good. He actually looked good, and maybe that's just a testament to how bad Felipe Colares really is. But one, Chase Hooper looked fucking massive for his division. I didn't think he was that big for the division. I always expected him to be a little bit skinnier, but it seems like he's really filled out into the division. He looks a lot bigger for the weight class now, a lot stronger, and that was a big factor here, and we didn't know that until he showed up on weigh-in day, but he looked a lot bigger for the weight class, a lot stronger. He was able to get dominant positions a little bit easier. Before in his fights, he was getting sort of thrown around a little bit, and he wasn't able to get dominant positions, and he would be in on a double leg, but not be able to complete it because of his style, and like, it was just his style to not get these sort of positions and then try and scramble to a better one because he wasn't strong enough to pick a guy up and dunk him on the ground. But in this fight, he looked strong. He looked okay on the feet as long as it lasted, but he didn't even mess around on the feet in this fight. He went straight for the clinch, straight for the grappling. Felipe Colares tried a couple of throws on him, but other than that, Chase Hooper's legs just sort of wrapped him up every single time. So Felipe Colares would go for like a head and arm throw, end up in a good position, and then Chase Hooper's legs would just fucking worm themselves around Felipe Colares and end up on his back and end up on a leg or end up on an arm and use it to get to a dominant position. And he just out-scrambled Felipe Colares the entire fight long. The second round was quite close, but I still gave it to Chase Hooper, and he won every single round, including dominant finish in the third, to get Felipe Colares out of there, man. TKO, just because Felipe Colares couldn't really move. He was exhausted trying to keep up with the scrambles. And Chase Hooper looked good. He looked bigger, stronger, better on the ground, better in the scrambles, and more pushing for a finish than we've ever seen him before. So good for Chase Hooper. He got the job done. Let's move on up the card. Jonathan Martinez versus Vince Morales. I picked Jonathan Martinez to school Vince Morales across the 3 rounds, 30-27. And that's what happened. He picked apart Felipe Colares. He picked apart Vince Morales for the last 3 rounds. The only 3 rounds of this contest. Sorry, that Holm versus Vieira fight really put me to sleep. So I'm trying to wake myself back up here. But Jonathan Martinez had a good performance. Very, very good performance. Won the first round, won the second round, won the third round. Very good. Front kicks to the body. He had great calf kicks throughout the fight as well. And then whenever Vince Morales would switch stances, he would start chopping at the lead leg instead, and then he would have to switch back. And the whole calf of Vince Morales' left leg, I believe, was completely destroyed from those calf kicks. So very good job by Jonathan Martinez. Started to open up some knees to the face and some punch combinations as well. Vince Morales was very, very game as the fight went on. The third round, I believe, was the closest round of the fight entirely. So, yeah, Vince Morales tried. He landed a couple of decent shots here and there behind the ear on Jonathan Martinez and stuff like that. But Martinez looked good, patient, and very, very focused. And he got the job done by 30-27 unanimous decision. Moving on up the card, Uros Medic versus Omar Morales. I picked Uros Medic to lose. I picked Omar Morales to win this one as the fight went on. I thought he did win the first round against Uros Medic. However, I might be wrong because the strike numbers are in favor of Uros Medic, but I thought that Omar Morales landed the better shots in the first round, at least more of the clean shots that I could see. Maybe Uros could have got the first round. No, I don't know. It was a close round. I gave it to Omar Morales based on some of the better shots that landed. He landed a couple of shots that looked like they shook Uros Medic a little bit and pushed him back a little bit, and his legs went a bit funny and he had to sort of back up and move around, you know what I mean? So I gave the first round to Omar Morales, but in the second round, Uros Medic, after a very close start, started to land the big shots, landed a big left hook, landed another big shot, and then landed another big shot and put down Omar Morales for good in that second round. And the stoppage, I'm not angry at it, but it was a bit early because Omar Morales was still in the fight, you know. I know he'd been knocked down a couple of times prior, so if you're a referee and you're in there, I don't blame the referee. But it was a bit bad because Omar Morales was on the ground, literally, like, ready to react to what Uros was going to do next to try and finish him. But, yeah, the referee acted as though he went out cold. And even some of the replies of the NPCs online were saying stuff like, he's out cold. Wow, he shut the lights out. Like, no, he was there on the ground. He just got knocked down a couple of times before. Not complaining about the stoppage. Uros Medic got the job done. Better for the division by far as well, so good for him. But Omar Morales, yeah, I thought he was still with it at the end to try and continue. But I'm not complaining. It was a brutal finish. He got knocked down a couple of times before, so good for Uros Medic. Great finish. We move on up the card to another fight. Jailton Almeida versus Parker Porter. I picked Jailton Almeida by first round rear naked choke, and that's exactly what happened. He went across the cage and took down Parker Porter for the entirety of the round and dominated him on the round. It was 6 seconds in, he got the takedown, and he kept him there for the entire fight long. Good for him. Jailton Almeida gets the win by first round rear naked choke. He's so massive for the heavyweight division. I have no idea how he makes light heavyweight, so he's going to be a problem at light heavyweight as long as he isn't like got a glass chin that we don't yet know about. But yeah, Jailton Almeida looks great. He's on roids, 100%, and he took down Parker Porter with ease, ragdolled him, dominated him on the ground. Parker Porter stayed tough to take a couple of shots that he did, and also tried to get back to a better position, but after all, Jailton Almeida took the full mount, landed big ground and pound shots, and eventually, Parker Porter just said, right, I'm done being punched in the face. Choke me out, essentially, and that's what happened. Jailton Almeida, massive ground and pound shots. Porter gave up the neck, and rear naked choke for Jailton Almeida against a guy who was heavier than him as well, to ragdoll him like that. That's impressive, even though it is Parker Porter, and he's morbidly obese. Good job, Jailton Almeida. He got the job done. Very, very impressive performance from him. We move on up the card. Joseph Holmes versus Alan Amedowski. I went with Joseph Holmes by second round finish. He ended up getting it in the first round. Not much happened early on. Joseph Holmes just picking at Alan Amedowski on the feet. Amedowski rushing forward with some big shots. He was so forwardly aggressive in that first round, looking for big shots, left, right, over again, pushing forward. And Joseph Holmes timed a knee up the middle. Landed a big knee to the face, started following up with some ground and pound shots after dropping Alan Amedowski, and then decided to clinch up, take him down, get the rear naked choke. He's got a couple of rear naked choke wins in his career, or at least one rear naked choke win previously in his career, so he went to what he knew, and after rocking him, wasted no time, clinched up, took him down. Eventually, Alan Amedowski, whilst semi-rocked, gave up his neck, and there's the rear naked choke, 2 in a row on the prelims. Joseph Holmes gets it done by rear naked in the first round. Very easy night's work for him, and good job, Joseph Holmes. Very, very good job. I went 3 for 3 on the prelims. We move on to the main card. Yun Yong Park versus Eric Anders. Anyone saying that Yun Yong Park lost that fight, I really despise your empty head. I really do despise your brainless, empty head. You have an empty head. I've seen verdicts talking about how Eric Anders should have won the first 2 rounds. I've seen people in the comments on Instagram. There were some interesting decisions this card, but people are over-exaggerating, man, because the people that they wanted to win didn't win, in my opinion. Eric Anders clearly lost the second and third round. He arguably should have lost the first round as well. However, he had a good moment of a takedown where he had a good positional advantage over Yun Yong Park. Yun Yong Park outlanded him 25-16 in the first, so I could have even given the first round to Yun Yong Park. But I gave it to Eric Anders because he was pushing forward. He landed a couple of decent shots early on in the round, and he controlled him against the cage. I was like, you know what? Not much happened this round. I'll give it to the guy who's trying to make something happen. Eric Anders won the first round in my mind. Who knows? Second and third round, 31-16 for Yun Yong Park on significant strikes. Not total strikes, not little arm punches, significant strikes for Yun Yong Park. I don't know what people were watching. Nothing Anders was throwing was landing clean. Rarely were there. Yun Yong Park was tagging him up as he came in. Eric Anders was catching shoulders, catching neck, catching the chest of Yun Yong Park. Yun Yong Park was lighting him up in that fight in the second and third round. Great job, Yun Yong Park. I don't know why people are complaining about that decision whatsoever. It's actually scary how stupid the general populace is. Yun Yong Park, the last 2 rounds, definitely 29-28. It's scary that it was a split decision. That's the bad judging. The fact that any judge can give Anders a round past round 1 is actually scary to me. We move on. Up the card, great performance by Yun Yong Park. Great takedown defense. Was able to break the body lock behind him every single time. Get wrist control, get a whizzer. He just did routine things. If Anders got double unders, he found underhooks and pummeled and found his way in a good position and turned it around against a cage and then separated. So, great takedown defense from Yun Yong Park. And Anders just wasn't doing enough in the clinch and wasn't doing enough at range either. So, good job, Yun Yong Park. He got it done. Moving on up the card. Tabitha Ricci versus Polyana Viana. Again, women's MMA. Terrible fight. I actually thought Polyana Viana won. People are going to call me crazy for that, but I thought she could have got that one. She landed way more total strikes in the first round. Overall total strikes were 126 to 72 for Polyana Viana. She landed way more total strikes in the first round. Fair play 9-7 on significant strikes, according to the actual stats of significant strikes in the first round to Tabitha Ricci. But they were all leg kicks to the legs of Viana on the ground. On the feet, Viana landed kicks to the body. She landed a couple of punches as well. She had an almost submission attempt at one point on the ground too. She was threatening submissions on the ground, and she was landing good shots off of her back. You win the round that way. But in women's MMA, and we'll get to this in the Holm versus Vieira fight as well, people really like scoring control time, which is nothing. Really weird to me. In women's MMA, doing nothing with a takedown and doing nothing against a cage but pushing someone there while getting outstruck against a cage means everything to these people. It's actually hurtful. Viana won the first. No doubt about it in my mind. Close round, but I gave it to Viana on damage. I knew they'd give it to Ricci, though, based on a takedown. And then round 2, Viana 20-12 on strikes significantly. Outlanded Tabitha Ricci in total strikes as well. And had the submission attempts. Ricci got a takedown. And that was it. So I gave the second round to Viana. And in the third round, Ricci wins the round. Significant strikes, total strikes. She landed a few more. And she got a couple of takedowns in that round as well. So I had it 29-28 Viana. And other than that, terrible fight in general. I'm not angry that Viana got robbed. It was a close fight anyway. Cut them from the sport because they just put on terrible bouts over and over and over again. Terrible women's MMA fight yet again. Just like the first one, just like this one. And we'll get to the main event in a second. Moving on. Michel Njokuani versus Dusko Todorovic. Dusko landed 5. I thought Dusko landed a few more than 5 strikes. Either way. 14-5 on the stats. That's weird. I thought Dusko was doing okay early on, landing a couple of punches to the face. I guess they were total strikes. He only landed 9 total strikes. I mean, these numbers are very anti-Dusko, but he was doing good in the early part of this fight, landing some strikes here and there. I guess Chidi was doing more of the knees to the body and stuff like that, which are a little bit more readable for a judge. But I thought Dusko did okay early on in this fight, was controlling the fight very well. But Chidi's very good at defending takedowns. He did use the cage grab a lot in this fight, though. He grabbed the cage, I believe, on 3 occasions. He grabbed this sort of foam area of the cage in the middle. At one point, he grabbed the cage and the ref told him about it, but he used it to get a better position on the takedown defense. Then at one point he grabbed the cage again to defend a takedown. So he was cheating egregiously in that fight in the first round, but hey, the judge didn't notice, the referee didn't notice, sorry. Dusko grabbed the cage at one point as well, and the referee didn't notice either, so he started grabbing the cage back when he saw that Chidi was doing it. But that elbow, let's talk about the elbow. Amazing performance. I called Michel Njokuani by first round TKO. He got the job done by first round KO. It was a brutal elbow on the break of a clinch. Dusko was getting a little bit sloppy because he didn't get the control time that he wanted from those takedowns. So he wasn't really able to breathe. He had to keep going at a really crazy pace. So Chidi landed the elbow off the break, Leon Edwards style. He didn't load it up and swing it. He sort of like tucked it back and then jolted it out there on the chin, side of the head, temple area, sorry, of Dusko Todorovic, and he was out badly. Like, I understand maybe giving him a chance, but it's the way he reacted once he hit the ground. Sure, he was awake, but he was like looking in an opposite direction, rolling over. So Michel Njokuani, first round KO, amazing performance. Let's get him against like an Anthony Hernandez, and then the winner of that one can start looking at either getting an opponent to get them a ranked opponent, or even getting a ranked opponent. We'll see how it goes. They ain't got long. Chidi's an older guy, so the sooner we can get him to the top, the better. Great performance. Let's turn him right around and put him on another card coming up soon. Moving on. Up the card to Michel Pereira versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. Now, first round, Michel Pereira's great. He's a great fighter. Santiago's a great fighter as well. I don't think this was a robbery. Now, 30-27 is a pre-written rigged scorecard. I don't think you can give round 3 to Michel Pereira in any way whatsoever. Sure, he also took a lot of shots in round 3, but I don't think you can give round 3 to Michel Pereira. So whatever judge did that, let me find his name. Ron McCarthy, you're a disgrace. Probably the brother of John McCarthy. Wouldn't be surprised. You're a disgrace for scoring that 30-27. Santiago clearly won the third round of this fight. It was a very competitive round still, but Santiago was landing the better shots. He wobbled Pereira at one point at the end of the third and started pouring it on. He won the third round. The second round is where it's at. The first round, Michel Pereira looking great on the feet, landing front kicks, landing right hands over the top. He was looking good. He had the power advantage. He was much bigger than Santiago Ponzinibbio. This fight was listed at 6'1" Pereira versus 6' Ponzinibbio. Ponzinibbio's 5'10". I don't know why they keep listing these fucking welterweights as 6 foot. Usman's 5'10". Covington's 5'10". And Michel Pereira is 6'1", and Ponzinibbio's 5'10", not 6 foot. I thought they were about an inch apart in height. They turned out to be about 3 inches apart, and Pereira's not even skinnier. He's a massive guy for welterweight. So, second round is where the equation is. First half of the second round, first 3 minutes, Pereira's winning the round quite comfortably again. Competitive. Ponzi's landing a leg kick here and there, a jab here and there, a jab to the body here and there. And Pereira's doing very good. He's landing front kicks to the body, knees to the body, round kicks to the body. He's landing some good shots upstairs. First 3 minutes go to Pereira. Last 2 minutes go to Santiago Ponzinibbio. He starts bringing back the numbers, throwing some combos to the body, landing double jabs and stuff like that. Jab right hand. He starts comboing up a little bit more. But Pereira wasn't rocked by any of this. Now, the question is, in a very even round of strikes, sure, Santiago Ponzinibbio got a takedown at the end, and I picked Santiago Ponzinibbio. Yes, he got a takedown at the end of round 2, and that does mean something. He did no damage with the takedown, in my opinion. No damage at all was done with the takedown. If he would have separated with the 5 seconds left and poured on like a combination against Pereira and a knee to the body, he would have won the second round. But the question is now, with a very, very close round in significant strikes, a takedown for Ponzinibbio in the last 30 seconds of the round after winning the last 2 minutes, or Pereira did stumble Ponzinibbio earlier in that round. He landed a big right hand over the top, and Ponzi sort of went a bit funny and really backed up and had to really get his wits about him again. And he also landed a stiff jab, check hook type shit on Ponzinibbio in the early part of that second round as well, that made him he sort of slipped his leg out like he got hit with a big punch. So that visual concussion on Ponzinibbio in the early part of round 2, I think is what made the judges edge towards Ponzinibbio. I don't think this was a bad decision. It was a they edged towards Pereira, sorry. I don't think this was a bad decision. Very close fight. Could have gone either way. They sided with Pereira rocking him in round 2 compared to Ponzinibbio getting a takedown at the end and finishing strong. Most people just judge the end of the round because they consider it not much before that. So the momentum change of Ponzinibbio starting to do well in the end of the second was enough for people to think, oh, it's all changing. Pereira's about to lose. But in reality, he'd done more than enough in the first 3 minutes, in my opinion, to at least give him a chance of winning that round. So I'm not calling a robbery. Very, very close fight, and good job to Michel Pereira. He looked good. Yeah, he looked good. He obviously does gas out, and in a 5-rounder, I'm very worried about him. I think he needs to learn to invest a lot more with his strikes. He seems to want to KO people, but he doesn't KO people. So if I was him, I'd do more front kicks to the body, more teeps to the body, more leg kicks, more calf kicks, things like that. He's very, very fast. So I think if he did want to utilize some calf kicks, he could do it very, very well. So I think you should do more of that rather than big right hands and big jumping moves and combinations and 1-2s down the pipe. Sure, they work, and his jab was looking good, and he's looking good in those areas, but he needs to sort of like invest a bit more early on so his opponent is broken down by the time we get into those later rounds. Then he could coast a little bit more, score a takedown, settle in half guard for a bit, you know what I mean? So Michel Pereira did good. He won 29-28. I'm not going to complain. I picked Ponzinibbio, and it could have gone either way. Moving on to the main event. My God, I don't think this was a robbery. The first round to me, I rewatched it before I did this. I rewatched the first and the third. The first round is just quite simply Ketlen Vieira's round. Women's MMA, people love to start suddenly counting, controlling someone against a cage. We all know for a fact, if Adesanya outlanded Vettori on significant strikes in a round by far, and Vettori was holding him against a cage doing nothing, one, it would have been separated, because that's what happens in men's MMA. It doesn't happen in women's MMA. They don't separate it against a cage at all. I don't know why. One, they would have said that Adesanya won anyway. Vettori's doing nothing but holding on. But all these simps are like up in arms about Holly Holm getting robbed. She didn't get robbed. She did not get robbed. She just simply didn't get robbed. First round, she did nothing on the feet. 6 strikes to 19 significantly. 6 strikes Holly Holm, 19 Ketlen Vieira. She was landing knees to the thigh against the cage and a couple of little punches, but knees to the body were being landed by Ketlen Vieira. She got a hip toss in the first round as well. She was doing good in the first round. Holly Holm recovered and got back up and stuff like that and scrambled her way back up and pushed against the cage again. But in terms of significant strikes and shots that are doing damage, Vieira won the first round. I thought it could go either way when I watched it live. I rewatched it. Vieira won the first round. Round 2, Holmes doing better. She's landing more on the feet. However, there was a moment in round 2 where Vieira got a rear naked choke, and it was close. The angle wasn't quite right, but it looked like it was a very tight rear naked choke. They even posted a picture about it, like, how did Holm escape this? And all that, trying to make it so it was like an interesting fight. It was a very boring fight. And Ketlen Vieira won that round because of that rear naked choke, in my opinion. Plus, she landed some big shots in that round too. And she was kneeing back in the clinch quite a bit, significantly. Significant strikes. Round 3. Holly Holm wins round 3, I think. No, Ketlen Vieira wins round 3. 23 significant strikes to 18. Lands the cleaner shots on the feet. Holly Holm is landing like oblique kicks and leg kicks and stuff like that. And inside leg kicks, little shots that aren't doing anything, rushing forward like a spastic because she's a multiple-time world boxing champion. And Ketlen Vieira was taking her time, straight right hand down the pipe, pops Holmes' head back, right hook, pops Holmes' head back again. She was landing good shots in this fight. She was outboxing purely by being a sexually confused Brazilian. She was outboxing a multiple-time world champion boxer across multiple weight classes. Holly Holm can't box, is what I found out in this contest. Vieira was timing her, landing better shots in round 3. She wins round 3 in my opinion. Plus she was kneeing Holm against the cage, and Holm wasn't doing anything but kneeing the fire and little rabid punches that aren't doing damage. Moving on to round 4. Holly Holm clearly wins round 4. Very, very clearly outlands her 37 to 23, wins the control time against the cage, lands better shots in the clinch as well, really starts tallying up some punches in the clinch. And then round 5, I gave it to Holly Holm as well. Even though she got clipped with some big shots at the start of round 5, she brought it back towards the end. I think she knocks down Vieira with a side kick to the body in round 4. And she also landed big shots in round 3. Front kick to the face, front kick to the body, some good leg kicks, a couple of decent punches of her own, pushing against the cage, kneeing the fire, punch in the face, boring. She lost 48-47. It's not a robbery at all. The first 3 rounds are Ketlen Vieira's rounds. Changed my mind. Clearly, she outlanded Holm significantly in 2 of them in rounds 1 and 3. And she got the rear naked choke attempt in round 2. And other than that, Holm didn't really do much to secure herself that round. So I gave 3 rounds to Vieira in the first 3. Last 2 rounds to Holm. But all the simps and all the pussies are going to be out there saying, Holm got fucked. Holm got wrecked by the judges. This isn't right. The judges are ruining it. Like, the judges across the board, outside of giving the fight to Anders and scoring 30-27 Pereira, were okay this event. In all honesty, they didn't get many fights wrong. They got some scorecards wrong, like 30-27 Pereira and 29-28 Anders, which shouldn't even have been given to him at all. But other than that, the scores were pretty good in terms of who won. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye. I'm going to unload on women's MMA tomorrow because it ruined another card for me. See you later.